The 6 o'clock news now on BBC One with Anna Ford and Clarence Mitchell.
William Hague is the new leader of the Conservative Party. He beat Kenneth Clarke by a majority of 22 votes and becomes the youngest leader of his party for more than 200 years. He says that he'll be offering a senior position to the former Chancellor. The Millennium exhibition at Greenwich gets an unexpected go-ahead, but Tony Blair orders a complete review of the project. And McDonald's win their libel case against two environmental campaigners after the longest trial in English legal history. Good evening. William Hague is tonight leader of the Conservative Party at just 36 years of age, the youngest Tory leader since 1783. Mr. Hague beat off the challenge of a vastly more experienced rival, the former Chancellor Kenneth Clarke, even though just 9 days ago only a quarter of Tory MPs voted for him as their first choice. Mr. Hague immediately promised Mr. Clarke a senior position in the shadow cabinet and vowed to heal the divisions in the party. All 164 Tory MPs were entitled to vote, and the victor needed a simple majority to win. In the event, William Hague won the support of 92 of his colleagues. Kenneth Clarke won 70 votes. There was one abstention and one spoiled ballot paper. Our chief political correspondent, John Sargent, is at Westminster.
After all the speculation of a nail-biting finish with a handful of votes in it, this was a surprisingly clear victory for William Hague. Tory MPs were obviously unimpressed by the last-minute link-up between Kenneth Clarke and the right-winger John Redwood. They've decided to back youth against experience and the promise of a new dynamic leadership rather than the tried and tested skills of the former Chancellor. Voting ended formally at 5 o'clock, and the result was announced in the committee room just after 15:15 by the chairman of the Backbench 1922 committee, Sir Archie Hamilton.
The result of the third ballot for the leader of the Conservative Party is as follows. Kenneth Clarke, 70. William Hague, 92. One abstention, one spoilt paper. I therefore declare that William Hague...
Mr. Hague wasted no time in showing his pleasure at a more decisive result than his close supporters expected.
I'm sure I'd like me just to say a few words. I'm obviously very pleased with the result. The Conservative Party has placed a great responsibility on me and done me a great honour in electing me as its leader. I've just spoken to the 1922 committee upstairs and said that I see it as my job not only to lead the party but to heal its divisions, that I owe it to every member of the party to make sure that I extend the hand of friendship and cooperation to all members of the party. I'm going to bring the party together. I'm going to take it back on the road to unity, to confidence, and back to power. And the whole Conservative Party is now going to work together to achieve that objective. Thank you very much.
Would Mr. Hague be prepared to give Kenneth Clarke a job in the shadow cabinet?
I'll certainly be offering a senior position in the shadow cabinet to Kenneth Clarke.
As Mr. Hague's camp celebrated, supporters of Mr. Clarke were clearly upset by the way he'd been so roundly beaten.
I'm disappointed because I think that Ken Clarke is one of the great politicians of our time. I think that that is recognised in the Conservative Party, but I think it's recognised over the political spectrum. The decision's been taken. The lesson now must be for the Tory Party, this decision having been taken, to get behind the new leader. That's what we failed to do with John Major. We must succeed to do that with William Hague.
But that won't be easy. This long drawn-out contest has exposed the divisions within the Conservative Party, and Mr. Hague will have to convince many doubting Tory MPs that he really does have the ability at the age of 36 not only to unite the leadership, but to convince the public that they do have a chance of forming an alternative government. Anna.
We've just heard some developments about Kenneth Clarke's position in the shadow cabinet. Can you tell us more?
Yes, it looks as if Mr. Clarke has already ruled out joining the shadow cabinet. He's made this statement a short time ago. It means that the offer which we've just heard from William Hague has been rejected, and the grounds for doing that is almost certainly Mr. Hague's insistence, which he made clear on Monday, that anyone who served in his shadow cabinet would have to agree to rule out a single currency. So if that was the position, Mr. Clarke obviously feels he couldn't put up with that. He's determined to keep the option open, and already we see the difficulties of Mr. Hague's leadership.
It certainly doesn't look like a united party, does it?
No, it doesn't, and I think we can also see the extent to which the offer that Mr. Clarke tried to put to his colleagues, that he and John Redwood could work together, that's the left and the right of the party, could work together. This improbable match, as many people saw it, the instability pact, as others called it, was not going to impress Tory MPs. It's surprising that of the 38 MPs who supported John Redwood, only 6 of them, it looks as if only 6 of them went to Mr. Clarke. So that just shows the extent to which his great effort that he put into that failed completely.
So do you see this as a vote for William Hague or a vote against that rather unholy alliance?
I think it's a vote for a number of things. It's a vote certainly for a new chapter, to go away from what many Tory MPs feel was the discredited period under John Major, and that Kenneth Clarke had that great disadvantage. It wasn't just that he was on the left of the party, but he was associated in many people's minds with failure. So they decided to turn the page, to turn to a new leader who can establish a different kind of conservatism. There was a strong feeling that Mr. Clarke couldn't be radical enough.
I think we're just going to hear from Kenneth Clarke now.
I've explained to William that long before the campaign started, immediately after the general election, I had decided that I wouldn't serve in the shadow cabinet if I did not become the leader. This has absolutely nothing to do with the events of this leadership campaign, which we've all set behind us, and which anyway was a perfectly reasonable campaign. Has nothing to do with my high regard and unstinting support of William. The fact is, I've been on the front bench for 26 years. I've either been in most departments or I've shadowed them. I retain my enthusiasm for politics, and I think it might wear off.
Despite his youth, William Hague's political ambitions go back more than 20 years. In 1977, at the age of just 16, he famously addressed the Conservative Party conference and impressed the then leader, Margaret Thatcher. Our political correspondent, Carole Walker, has been looking at Mr. Hague's remarkable rise to power.
William Jefferson Hague's meteoric political career has made him the youngest Tory leader since Pitt the Younger in 1783. He's 8 years younger than Tony Blair, but was already immersed in politics when the young Blair was leading his rock band. William Hague was born in 1961, the baby of the family with 3 older sisters. He was brought up in Wentworth, a Tory bastion in an area so staunchly socialist it was known as the People's Republic of South Yorkshire. His parents, who owned a soft drinks company, were well off but not millionaires, and the young William went to the local comprehensive school. His passion for politics emerged early.
He was able to recall with almost complete accuracy at the age of 15 all the members of Parliament, which constituencies they sat for, and if not the exact majority, then a round figure at least.
It was at the age of 16 that he made his now famous speech to the Tory party conference, daring to tell Margaret Thatcher of the demands of young people.
Most of all, they want to be free. Free from the government they think should get out of the way. Don't intervene, don't interfere in their lives. And I trust that Mrs. Thatcher's government will indeed get out of the way.
The Tory leader indicated her approval. He moved effortlessly on to Oxford, took a first in politics, philosophy and economics, and became president of the Union. In 1989, he won the parliamentary seat of Richmond in North Yorkshire, the last Conservative to win a by-election. William Hague was just 27, the youngest Tory in the Commons. He helped mastermind John Major's leadership bid the following year and was promoted to the Cabinet as Welsh Secretary 2 years ago. Today, he's keen to shake off the media focus on his youth.
I don't categorise myself, really, in the way that newspapers sometimes do. But again, you have to live with that if you're in the public eye. People like to attach labels to you. There's the boy wonder, there's the young upstart, there's the young pretender. I think I can live with that.
It was at the Welsh office that he met Fionn Jenkins, a senior civil servant who taught him Welsh and is now his fiancée. Though some say Hague is a true Thatcherite and he finally won her public endorsement at the 11th hour, Others believe he'll be a compromise leader in the John Major mould, but the new Tory leader insists he is his own man.
I don't define myself as being another version of anybody. I'm not Margaret Thatcher Mark II, I'm not John Major Mark II, I'm William Hague Mark I.
The task he takes on is daunting indeed. To oppose the mighty Labour government
has been introducing him. John Major has been speaking about the formal handover to the new leadership and to a younger generation. And here is William Hague, the youngest leader of the Conservative Party since 1783. He promised to heal the divisions in the party. He's promised to extend the hand of friendship and cooperation to all members of the party. It's not been taken up by Kenneth Clarke, who's refused to serve in the new cabinet, but has promised his unstinting support to Mr. Hague. Mr. Hague has also promised to bring the party back to power.
That's enough. Thank you very much.
And here he is.
Well, Brian, ladies and gentlemen, to lead the Conservative Party is a great honour. And it's also a great responsibility to take our party through opposition in the next few years and into government once again at the next general election is the task with which you have charged me. You've put your faith in me, and I thank you for that, and I want you to know that I'm not going to let you down. I take over from a great leader of our party, from John Major. I had the opportunity of serving in his government as a PPS, as a junior minister, and then as a member of the cabinet. His record of achievement over the last 6.5 years as our Prime Minister is a remarkable one. On the international stage, he led this country through the Gulf War, helped end the conflict in the former Yugoslavia. At home, he took the Conservative agenda forward into uncharted territory. He brought private ownership to industries which they said no one could bring private ownership to. He brought openness and accountability to faceless bureaucracies in the public service. He worked tirelessly for peace in Northern Ireland. And perhaps above all, he has left behind him the strongest economy in the lifetime of my generation. That is what we have passed on. Millions of families are better off, better paid, more secure because of what he and Margaret Thatcher achieved over the last 18 years. And we're never going to stop being proud of what we achieved over the last 18 years. We're never going to let the country forget, never going to let people forget what we achieved over those years. But now we've come to the end of a long and keenly fought leadership election. I certainly know that it's been keenly fought. The media have tried to portray it as a battle between bitter rivals, although I've always found it hard. I hope everyone will always have found it hard to see Ken or I as bitter men. We're not like that, except in our drinking habits. But hard words have been said, hard words have sometimes been exchanged over the last few weeks, but I'm determined that no grudges will be borne by anyone in our party as we look back on that process. We all start from a clean slate, and it is my responsibility to lead this party. It is also my responsibility to heal this party and to bring people together over the coming months and over the coming years. And so
William Hague speaking there at Conservative Central Office, and we're going back to John Sargent at Westminster. John, he promised no jobs to anybody during the run-up to this extraordinary leadership win. Who do you think are going to get the senior jobs? Do we see, for instance, Michael Howard as Foreign Secretary now?
I think that's possible. If you remember, what they said was, all right, we'll have no deals, but those two men, Peter Lilly and Michael Howard, when they pulled out of the race after the first round, and there was a question of would they support John Redwood, well, they surprisingly said they wouldn't do that, although they were all on the right, the three musketeers on the right. Those two decided they would back William Hague. So would he pay them back and do what many of their supporters want, which is Peter Lilly as Shadow Chancellor and Michael Howard as Foreign Secretary? That seems quite likely.
John, thank you very much, and I'm sorry we couldn't bring you that report on Peter Goss, the round-the-world yachtsman who received the Légion d'Honneur in France tonight. And the main news again tonight, William Hague has been elected leader of the Conservative Party. He beat the former Chancellor, Kenneth Clarke, by 22 votes. At just 36, Mr Hague is the youngest Tory leader for more than 200 years. He said his job was to heal the divisions in his party. And the next national news is at 9 o'clock.
But from the 6 o'clock team, good evening.
Good evening.